The morning of graduation was supposed to be perfect, the kind of day people remember for the rest of their lives, but for Emily Carter it already felt wrong before she even stepped onto the school grounds. The sky was too bright, the air too loud, and the smiles around her felt sharp instead of warm. She adjusted the cheap blue graduation gown over her shoulders, fingers trembling slightly, and told herself to breathe. 4 years. 4 years of surviving whispers, shoves in hallways, cruel laughter, and silence from teachers who pretended not to see. Today was supposed to be the end of it. Just walk across the stage, take the diploma, smile for the cameras, and leave. That was the plan. Emily didn't know yet that the bullies who had made her life miserable had one final act planned for her, or that this act would ignite a chain of events none of them could ever undo. The bleachers were packed with families, balloons bobbing in the wind, phones raised high. Emily scanned the crowd instinctively, her heart doing that familiar ache when she didn't see the one face she always searched for first. Her dad wasn't there yet. He had promised he'd try. He always said that. And most of the time, he meant it. Navy schedules didn't bend for graduations, he'd explained in calm, careful words when she was younger, when she still cried every time he missed a birthday or school play. She swallowed the disappointment and looked away, focusing on the stage instead. Behind her, a group of girls laughed too loudly. Emily recognized the voices instantly. Madison Reed and her friends. The queens of the school. Perfect hair, perfect lives, and a cruelty that came as naturally to them as breathing. Emily felt her shoulders tense. She tried to shrink, to disappear into the sea of blue gowns, but Madison's eyes locked onto her like a predator spotting wounded prey. Madison leaned close to her friends and whispered something, and they all laughed again, eyes flicking toward Emily with open contempt. Emily stared straight ahead, heart pounding, reminding herself it was almost over. Almost. The principal began his speech, droning on about bright futures and unforgettable memories, words that felt like a joke to Emily. Her memories of this place were unforgettable, yes, but not in the way he meant. She remembered the first time Madison tripped her in the hallway freshman year, sending her books flying while everyone laughed. She remembered the anonymous notes shoved into her locker calling her pathetic, poor, worthless. She remembered eating lunch in bathroom stalls to avoid the cafeteria. And she remembered the day someone found out her dad was never around and decided that made her an easy target. Navy Ghost Daddy, they'd called him. Emily clenched her jaw as the rows began to move. Names were being called. One by one, students stood, walked, shook hands, posed for photos. Applause erupted for Madison and her friends, their parents cheering loudly from the stands. Emily could feel the contrast like a physical weight. When her name was called, the applause was polite but thin, a smattering of claps from teachers and a few kids who barely knew her. She stood anyway. She always stood. Head down, steps careful, she moved toward the stage, every muscle tight with anxiety. That was when it happened. As she passed Madison's row, a foot shot out. Emily didn't even have time to react. Her heel caught, her balance vanished, and she pitched forward hard. The world tilted, the sky spinning as she hit the ground with a painful thud. Her cap flew off. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Laughter followed immediately after. Madison's laughter was the loudest. Emily tried to push herself up, pain flaring in her side and knee, but another kick came out of nowhere, slamming into her ribs. It wasn't hard enough to break anything, but it was enough to send a clear message. You're nothing. Tears burned her eyes as humiliation crashed over her in a suffocating wave. Teachers rushed forward too late, shouting for order, but the damage was done. Hundreds of phones were recording now. Emily could hear whispers spreading through the bleachers like wildfire. Did you see that? She fell. Did they just kick her? Her hand shook as she finally managed to stand, gown dusty, face burning. The principal asked if she was okay, his voice tight with panic, but Emily couldn't speak. She nodded stiffly and walked the rest of the way across the stage, vision blurred by tears she refused to let fall. She accepted her diploma with numb hands and kept walking, each step feeling heavier than the last. In the stands, Madison smirked, victorious. To her, this was just another joke, another moment of power. She had no idea how wrong she was. Emily returned to her seat, chest aching, not just from the kick but from years of pain piling on top of this single moment. She stared at the ground, wishing she could disappear. She didn't see the man who had just entered the stadium. He moved quietly through the crowd, wearing a simple dark jacket, his posture calm, controlled, his eyes sharp. People shifted instinctively to let him pass, though they didn't know why. He stopped when he saw his daughter sitting alone, shoulders shaking, her graduation gown stained with dirt. His jaw tightened. Every muscle in his body went rigid, a lifetime of training snapping into place. Commander Jack Carter had faced war zones, explosions, and enemies who wanted him dead, but nothing hit him harder than the sight of his little girl broken in front of hundreds of people. He had missed so much of her life trying to protect others. He had promised himself that when it mattered most, he would be there. This mattered. Jack watched the stage, his gaze flicking to the group of girls still laughing, still whispering. He didn't move yet. He assessed. He always assessed. Emily finally looked up, wiping her eyes, and saw him. For a split second, she thought she was imagining it. Then their eyes met. Her breath caught. "Dad," she whispered, barely audible. Jack gave her a small nod, the same steady look he used to give her when she was a child and scared of thunderstorms. "I'm here." The ceremony continued, oblivious to the storm that was quietly forming. Madison leaned back, satisfied, already replaying the moment in her head, unaware that the man who now stood watching her wasn't just an angry parent. He was a Navy SEAL. And graduation day was about to become the day everyone would remember for very different reasons. If you're already feeling the tension rise and want to know what happens next, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now, because Chapter 2 is where the truth comes out, the bullies face consequences they never imagined, and a father shows the world exactly what it means to protect his child.